Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. There's no group of people in the Star Wars galaxy more interesting than the Mandalorians. Now, if you've only seen the Mandalorian TV show, you might be thinking to yourself that these individuals seem relatively defeated and downtrodden. They have lost their homeland, and the small factions that are left in the galaxy are all cultish and extreme in their behaviors. Perhaps it's a self-defense mechanism designed to protect them what's left of their storied and ancient culture. Their home planet of Mandalore is scarred and pocketed with craters and glassed-over deserts. The planet might never recover to its former glory or population. But at the heart of the Mandalorian people is a warrior culture that has created some of the finest soldiers the galaxy has ever seen. Today we're going to take a look at 5 elements of Mandalorian culture that really helps them excel at soldiering. One of the most special parts of Mandalorian culture is an intense focus on the individual spirit and identity. Mandalorians always built their society as organically as possible with limited rules and regulations. Instead, you had these shared cultural values in the form of an honor code or some kind of mercenary creed. And over thousands of years of existence, the things that Mandalorians value have not changed much. For the most part, individual honor and discipline are seen as highly important things, which is how Mandalorian society seems to function. This creates a self-motivation amongst Mandalorians to do the right thing, especially when interacting with their fellow clan members. There's also a great emphasis on self-reliance and responsibility, which is why most Mandalorian governments are very minimalistic and they don't provide much services or have much of a relationship with the average Mandalorian. It's basically not present in most cases outside of the Crusader era and the new Mandalorian period. This means when your house catches on fire, it's really up to you and your neighbors to put out that fire, or if you fall ill, you have to probably just find the village medic. And so unlike the Empire or more developed societies, in Mandalorian culture, everything starts from the individual. And if the individual is weak, they become a potential liability in the chain, and they usually are kicked out of the group. What you have left are extremely strong, self-reliant individuals who can function relatively well on their own and thrive in a group of similarly minded individuals. This can be extremely helpful when on the battlefield and can help ease logistics and other support aspects of creating an army. It also creates self-motivated soldiers who don't really need much instruction. So what happens to physically or mentally weak Mandalorians? Well, for the most part, there aren't many, and that's because of how Mandalorians recruit members. Mandalorians do have natural births, but because most Mandalorian females and males have very nomadic lives seeking mercenary work, starting a family is not really easy or practical. And so natural birth rates are very low amongst the Mandalorians. Instead, what's far more common is for Mandalorians to adopt orphans and children from the battlefield. Din Djarin was adopted in this manner by Death Watch. Jango Fett was also adopted in this manner by Yeaster Mareel and his Super Commandos, as was Kal Skirata and countless other Mandalorian badasses. The thing is, Mandalorians didn't just select orphans that they pitied or looked like needed help. Instead, they looked for individuals with a warrior spirit. When Yeaster Mareel found Jango Fett, the young boy was hiding from Death Watch Mandalorians who had murdered his family. Jango immediately decided to help the Super Commandos exact revenge on his family's killers. Yeaster Mareel could sense that Jango would make a terrific fighter one day, and he was correct. Now, individuals like Bo-Katan or Sabine Wren, who were born into important Mandalorian families, were given more of a traditional family life. But this also included heavy and intense training from a very young age. By the time a young Mandalorian like them reaches adulthood, they'll be better trained than most combat veterans in other places in the galaxy. When you attack a Mandalorian village, first you find out that it is a terrible idea to do so. And second, that literally everyone in the village has a second profession, and that's being a professional badass. The town armorer and the blacksmith, the local school teacher, even the 80-year-old man who hangs out in a local pub, all probably have a suit of Beskar lying around, and just in case something like this happens. Very few societies have as many able-bodied soldiers per capita. It's pretty much 100%. This also says a lot about how Mandalorians think. While they might have some very regressive and toxic mentalities about pride and honor, they definitely don't seem to discriminate against people or aliens based on their sex, appearance, or age. In general, if you can hold your own in a firing line and follow the basic Mandalorian code, you'll be accepted. And although most Mandalorians seem to be human beings in recent times, the Mandalorians throughout history accepted all sorts of alien races who wanted to join. And so you had all sorts of weird looking Mandalorian helmets to accommodate the various Xeno features, like head tentacles. The key to an effective fighting force is a skilled group of NCOs that can facilitate orders between the officers and the enlisted men, and more importantly, direct small unit combat missions on the ground. Basically, the more decentralized your military command is, the more flexible and quick to react your force will be, and that usually leads to successful outcomes. The Mandalorian approach to the chain of command is very, well, Mandalorian. It's mostly based on meritocracy. If you're in a small group of fighters, generally the most experienced and talented individual will take command, and the rest of the group just obeys orders and fights effectively as a team. Now, obviously, there are some clashes occasionally about who is the best and the most fit to lead, which is why the Mandalore, the ruler of all Mandalorians and the individual who usually leads crusades, is determined through trial by combat. Any Mandalorian can challenge the existing Mandalore to a fight, and if they win, they actually become the new Mandalore. Because of the high level of proficiency of every Mandalorian individual, you usually have very highly trained soldiers who don't really need that much direction in the first place. And so squad leaders and company level leaders in a Mandalorian army are more there to communicate with each other to have a better view of the overall objective and battle plan. For the most part, the individual soldier will know what to look for and how to act with relatively low oversight. Now, one of the biggest advantages of being Mandalorian is the fact that they have access to Beskar, also known as Mandalorian iron. When forged into an alloy, Beskar is basically the strongest material in the galaxy. It's highly blaster resistant and can even take repeated blows from a lightsaber without melting. Beskar, when used in armor or even on ships, renders everything it covers indestructible. The Mandalorians heavily rely on their Beskar armor and jealously guard the deposits they control, along with the secrets of how they forge it into easy-to-work metal. Now, even though the Mandalorians have this basically overpowered armor suit, they're still very open-minded and eager to adopt new technology, weapons, and tactics from, the battlefield or cultures that they just recently defeated. This probably stems from the fact that Mandalorian warriors are constantly fighting to the death, and occasionally they do get humbled and are defeated, which allows them to grow and learn, as long as they aren't dead, of course. When the Mandalorians encountered the Jedi Order for the first time, it forced the Mandalorians to drastically change their armor. In order to make up for their lack of Force powers, Mandalorians started wearing jetpacks so that they could have more mobility than a Jedi. They also added several non-blaster weapons to their armored suits because the Jedi were terrific at blocking blaster bolts back at them. A flamethrower or a hidden toxic dart or even Ebola is much harder to stop for a Jedi and much less predictable, as are area weapons like rockets. Mandalorians went from being preyed on by the Jedi to becoming one of the most successful group of Jedi hunters outside of the Sith Order. Other pieces of technology, like the basilisk war droids they used to ride into combat, were also copied from species that they conquered and defeated. Even the Mandalorian's ultimate symbol of power, the Darksaber, is based on Jedi technology. Ultimately, Mandalorian society is quite practical and not as rigid as you would expect for such a military-oriented culture. The thing that matters the most for Mandalorians is survival, so that they can learn from their mistakes and improve their odds of surviving the next battle. The Mandalorians are brutal, but at the same time extremely intelligent and extremely open-minded when it comes to figuring out new strategies and solutions. This makes for a deadly combination. As a people, they are completely evolved to fight to the death. So there you have it, guys. That's why Mandalorians seem to create more warriors per capita than any other species or ethno-linguistic group in the entire galaxy. Let me know in the comment section below if you think I'm wrong and if you think there's a better warrior culture out there. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.